Welcome to #Wednesdays Weekly, a weekly information session in collaboration with voluntary sector and public sector partners. Today's session is 5-Step Family Carer Support, hosted by Julian Cohen from Turning Point. Over to you, Julian.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for attending today. My name's Julian from Rochdale Oldham Active Recovery, and what we offer is a single unified model of delivery of substance misuse in Rochdale and Oldham. Today, what we're looking at today is around how we support family members that are affected by their addiction of a family member, of someone they care for, or a loved one. Traditionally, within treatment, we've always looked at supporting family members who are affected by the person that's using. And when we say using, that's drinking alcohol, using substances, any type of addiction, really. A lot of commission services don't deal with gambling, because I've noticed we have someone who represents from around gambling, but we will support family members because it is an addiction. So we will support family members that are affected. And specifically, we do what we call a program called 5-Step Carer. Traditionally, the reason why a lot of services shy away from supporting family members is around information sharing, confidentiality, and also GDPR. And it is a challenge because a lot of the time a family member will come on, and what they actually come on for is to find out what's going on with the treatment journey of their family member, carer, or loved one. But it is family support and family care is about actually supporting them as the person who needs the help and support. We can't sit and tell people about what's going on with someone's treatment, and that's really a key area. Although I say that's the case, we still will have family members come on, and their primary thing is they really want to know what's going on in the treatment of the loved one. So there are complexities there, but we do work around it by consent to share information, documentation, and also updating that regularly. I'm going to share my screen. Right, it's there. And I'm going to try a video, if I can find it. It's not always easy to find them. Right, we'll forget the video. Because it's for some reason it's showing it. Is that showing now the 5-Step Carer first slide?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Is it just one? We can support family members with some one-to-one support, but what we've actually found out is that workshops involving people together tends to be quite effective. So we tend to we're doing workshops, and we're doing them on WebEx at the moment, and it is a 5-session. I'll explain a little bit more. There's a campaign. I was going to show the video, but for some reason it's disappeared off my desktop, and it's a hashtag Forgotten 5 Million campaign, and it's on the AdFam website, which is a national charity. It's around improving life for families who are affected by drugs, alcohol, and of course gambling. And what they've worked out is that between 1 in 10 adults in Great Britain currently and negatively are affected by someone else's substance use or maladaptive behaviour associated with substances, and that includes alcohol. So we look at 5 million people in all. I suppose from that, what we're actually saying is somebody somewhere, I can talk about my own sort of personal thing, is someone somewhere will know someone that's affected by addiction, and that addiction doesn't just affect the individual, it affects the people around them. I suppose because it's addiction, the group of people particularly, they suffer, but also it's actually in silence. There's almost there's a stigma around addiction, which of course means it's a huge area where people remain forgotten around public awareness and also about policy. Don't forget, if you look at the alcohol industry and gambling industries, they have a value within a service industry led economy, and also provide income to the government. So there is conflicts there, isn't there? But there's certainly a lot of stigma around addiction. AdFam do some amazing and incredible work, and they do some training as well, which is available. So it's quite a lot. The 5-step method that we're doing was originally developed for families and affected by someone's alcohol or drug use. So primarily that was the area it was developed for. They are quite brief, but also they're very evidence-based and structured. When we say psychosocial intervention, we're looking at an intervention which is based on cognitive behavioural techniques to look at how thinking patterns around what's going on affect emotions, which also then affect behaviours. The model is actually very much designed for the family member. I think I might have said a little bit earlier, family members, sometimes they are very much so much concentrated on the person that's addicted that they almost forget to look at their own needs, their own emotional health, and their own emotional health can then affect their physical health. The best way a family member can help someone that's in an active addiction is to be well themselves, and certainly addiction can make other people quite unwell. In many ways, it's an evidence-based program developed from research about how families are affected, and then also there's an evaluation process of this model that's been developed. So there's constant evaluation to see how it's working. So I'm not boring you all with a constant PowerPoint. People can say or interrupt what they want, but how do you think a partner of someone with alcohol or illicit drug problem could be affected? What do you think the main things could be for that person?
Well, it's sort of like they're having an affair, secrets and lies.
Yeah, that's an excellent one. Yeah, that's the way you've put that's absolutely brilliant. I was doing a 5-step WebEx last night, and that's what someone said, but they didn't put it in such candid, like having an affair makes it sound. Yeah, it is like that. Yeah. An addict and that can actually start to love the substance more than the person they're with, because that's addiction. Powerful. Yeah. So the secretive, furtive behaviours, lying as well.
Then you've got the socio-economic factors.
Yeah, of course there is. Yeah.
Where's the money going?
Yeah, alcohol's relatively cheap, but if people are drinking a lot of it, it costs a lot of money. if it's an illegal drug, if it's crack cocaine, it could, you know, people can binge 100, 200, 300 pound a night to use that drug. If the person's then spending a lot of money on the drug, where does that actually lead that person that's using it to go to? Shoplifting, sex working. It could be anything, couldn't it, as well, which can affect the other person. I suppose the other thing, there's so many. We'll have a little look at this a little bit later, but it's what we're seeing more. So if the affected family member is a parent, and this can be quite common, where older parents find that their children, as they get older, move in because they may, due to the addiction, have lost the business, they may have lost the house, so they might actually find someone moving in with an older parent. How do you think that the problems could present there?
You've got different lifestyles for a start.
Yeah, very.
And then you've got possibly health needs of the parent that comes with strains, and might be strain on their health, but also might be a source. Depends what meds they're on.
Yeah, there is a challenge there. If the family member is a parent and they're starting to age, they might not actually be in good health as well. They might also be quite affluent, and the child could. There's so much there, and I'm not saying it always happens, but there could be some safeguarding issues, very, very much so. I think we're seeing more of, particularly in Rochdale and Oldham, some of our opiate using clients may be an older using opiate client, but then they're back either with the parents or needing the parents, or even caring for the parents. So you may have someone that's not in good health caring for parents that are not in good health. So that's also an issue as well. I suppose we look at things where the partner of someone has dementia. Again, safeguarding issues could be paramount there. If the affected family member is actually a parent themselves, we have to think about things like that. Again, there's a whole lot of stuff, and family members' experiences, how it impacts on them for seeking help. So we talk about that stigma, but how do family members understand that they could have a carer's assessment, they could go to carer hubs? Again, it's the stigma of family issues around addiction. So there is a massive burden on family members. And again, as well, we look about how services are commissioned. I think more and more commissioners are looking around employing specific family member workers. I think with funding cuts over the past couple of years, we even have less relationship counselling, Relate and things like that. We don't seem to have as much as we used to have. So it is a challenge. There's quite a bit of overlap of what family members do grapple with. So a range of complex coexisting problems, and that could be physical, mental health care problems. They see somebody that they've known as healthy start to deteriorate. They've seen someone they know is very, very capable, not being capable. They see someone that's responsible not being responsible. They can see someone that budgeted well suddenly not budgeting well. So there's so many parameters. Health and well-being generally, we look at that as a huge area of people being affected. Relationships within the family, the addict, there's in effect how that affects how other people behave, what other people do, and it's around, we have to look at safeguarding, keeping people safe. Addiction creates so much worry, fear, and negative emotions. Will that person get better? How much harm are they doing to themselves? How are the children in the family coping? There was some research done around addiction. Over 1 million children within families affected by alcohol misuse. So alcohol, the biggest addiction of substances that we work with, but it's far ranging with alcohol. It goes through, it doesn't discriminate against class or age or any type of person. So sometimes the family member actually suddenly becomes a carer, and a huge burden of caring. It can totally take over their lives, and that can be quite challenging. If the addict unfortunately doesn't make it and then passes away, then you've got issues of bereavement, you've got issues of guilt, you've got issues of how that person also tends to move on, and also how that person also makes relationships in the future. So you were saying before, the person perhaps was deceitful, the person was lying, the person cheated, there's a whole range of different things. It leaves the family member who was the carer possibly emotionally damaged for the future, and how they view moving on in the future. Some family members really struggle. They struggle to cope with situations. They struggle to cope with how other family members see things going on. So we know, and again, within the 5-step care programs that I've been running, the family member wants to look after the addict, but you've got the rest of their family saying, you know, they're no good, you need to leave, you need to move away. And you get all these people telling them what they should do, and that again creates a whole range of different thoughts and feelings. Isolation and a lack of support, people that are looking after others with addictions, the stigma of addiction, and that can also depend on the drug. So if it's alcohol, well, it's a substance that's legally sold. It's legal, anyone can drink alcohol. People might understand more, but if it's a heroin user, there might be less sympathy there. So we can also look at the different types of drugs as well, and also what the drug's doing to that individual. So there is a massive burden on family members, and sometimes a family member doesn't even see it. They go into that sort of mode where they just think it's just part of life. It's something that I have to do. Any questions? So the 5-step member, there is a theory behind it. It was developed by Lazarus and Folkman, and it's around how people cope with stress. We know exposure to stressful situations is normal, common. It's every day, and people learn to adapt, and they learn to deal with stressful situations. The way people cope is really important. The problem with addiction is isolation, embarrassment, stigma. Thinking things will be okay traps people in paralysis, and that's what often happens with addiction. We've got to then remember, you have somebody that's addicted who may utilize this for their own means, and they may do that intentionally. It could be unintentional, but whilst people keep it hidden, while people, that hidden 5 million people, the person that's addicted can really sort of, I suppose, I'm not sure if they mean to take advantage, but it certainly can happen. And it may be that the family members also keep it secret from their own family. I know even when I go for walks with the dog in the park, people come to me and talk. They know I work in drug and alcohol, some of them, and occasionally they'll just start talking about it. They won't talk about it to people that they know. They won't even talk about it to their own doctors. But what they might do is talk to a stranger, which is often what people do, because nobody knows it's that stigma. We know not just, we suppose we can look at addiction like other health problems or other disabilities, and that causes stress on people that are looking after other people. It can cause emotional, mental health. It can cause ill health as well, and a lot of other negative impacts. Addiction's not just on a continuum. We have people that may do well, they may stop using or drinking, but as part of the cycle of addiction, people relapse. And with that brings a whole range of issues around thinking everything's going to be all right, and then it all goes pear-shaped. And imagine the yo-yo emotional upset that happens. So the person gets well, gets better, they might do a detox, they might do a rehab, they come out, they drink, they use. And then you've got all your family around you saying, I told you so, I knew it wasn't going to last. So there's a whole lot of things going on. We can help and support individuals by improving their wraparound social support. We can improve, we work in a holistic way, so we will use the support of social prescribing, focused care practitioners, we'll use Living Well. We will help and support the family member as much as possible where we can. A bit of an idea of what a cycle is. Stress can lead to denial, which can then lead to avoidance, which then leads to cover up and problem not solved. So there's a problem, addiction's a problem. Addiction causes problems to other people, but we can go around in that cycle where the problem's not solved. And what we want to do with 5-step care is help and support the individual to find solutions. We don't tell them what they should do, but we hopefully can support to help them to find a solution themselves. We're always, when we're doing our WebEx, at the moment we're doing it on a Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. I think people come expecting to get solutions quite quickly. They want us to give advice. They want us to tell them what to do. Am I doing it right? They want reassurance if they're doing things right. We don't do any of that. What we do is do a 5-step. And the first one's quite simple. We listen, we reassure, and we explore concerns. The first session is really about the person letting it all out. Letting it all out around what's going on, but also pulling it back to say this is about you. So I know we're going to talk about the loved one, we're going to talk about the family member, we're going to talk about the carer, but what we then want to pull it back is saying, how does all what's going on affect you? How's it really affecting you, what it's doing? And we always have the means to support that. If things are difficult, we can have that extra support at any stage. The second session will be to provide relevant, specific and targeted information. So a lot of people who have an addict in the family or something going on, a lot of the time they don't have enough knowledge about the substances that they're using, the harm that's going on by that substance, the way the substance affects them. And where we don't have the knowledge and skills at that point, we can find it out for them. What we don't want to do on the second session is scare people. So if someone's chronically dependent on alcohol, we can give basic harm reduction advice and information, but we don't want to throw a whole load of information that might worry and add extra stress. So we don't want to be talking about chronic liver disease. We don't want to be talking about pancreatitis. We don't want to be talking about early morbidity of alcohol-related dementias, although that might be the case that could happen. We have to go softly and easily, so we want to give them stuff that's going to be palatable for them. The third session is where we get into the meat of how we can, where people are getting stressed, where people are struggling to deal with it, where people may be doing the wrong things. You know, with addiction, and people are causing so much harm and damage. The screaming and the shouting at them, it may work as a short-term plan, but as a longer-term strategy, it might not be effective. So it's around better coping strategies, around better communication skills, and hopefully finding ways that's going to work. The fourth step, what we would be looking at, is to explore what's going on, and then carry on enhancing and to give extra support. And by step 5, we've now got hopefully a plan where people can be discussing and finding out and signposting and getting that extra support to really move on, and hopefully carry on to get the help within services that are out there in communities and carer hubs. Ideally, if people want to carry on and even set their own family support groups up, they can be really, really effective. We already have in the United Kingdom, we have things like the Fellowship do Al-Anon, they do Families Anonymous, which is the mutual aid services. There's self-management recovery training for families and carers. I think there's a Gam-Anon as well, a Gamblers Anonymous family members. So there is stuff out there. The AdFam website will give you a lot of information about family carer support. It's a really, really good website. I won't go too much into this. We do a family member questionnaire. It's really thought-provoking. It challenges denials of problems. It asks them things like, is the family member, is it causing a physical health problem? Is it causing you to get angry? I think there's 30 questions, but it really just asks loads of questions about what the individuals, how the individual is affecting them as a person. A lot of people as well have not actually realised the extent of addiction and how far it is in terms of its complexity. Addiction is complex. It's a complex way of people coping. It's a complex way of people getting targeted and anchored into a substance, and it's a challenging way of getting out of it. And also we look around the link of how physical, mental health and spiritual healthcare needs are affected by people's addiction. So we have, just quickly going to go through the steps, and I'm going to briefly go through them. We want to look around the family member. How are they affected? The situation, what's going on? Who else in the family is affected? Why are they affected? What do they do? We're giving people time to talk, to be open and to offload. From the ones that I've done, I think I mentioned the family member still will continue to talk about the person they're looking after rather than themselves. And that's what we want to do, is say, actually, we're here as a separate support mechanism for you. And that's important. We support and give people good information, and we know when people are better informed, they're better able to deal with situations, and when they're better able to deal with situations, they're better able to deal with stress. We can look at around health problems, around disability, around symptoms, about medication, around how each drug works and how it causes harm. And also we will do crisis intervention support if necessary. We give good advice and information to make sure the person's safe. We're not telling people again, we let the family member lead. We can sit there with all the knowledge and skills around addiction that we've got, but what we want to know is from the family member what information they want and what's going to be useful to them. How do people cope? Well, we know some people are good at coping. Some people are really resilient with change. Some people are resilient when things go wrong. There's no rights and wrongs, but we know people that we can help cope better, have better health and well-being outcomes. We want people the carer's life to become. We don't want it to become unmanageable, so we want to give examples that they can use that can change situations, and it might be around how the family member can set better and improve clearer boundaries, the pros and cons of different decision making of what they're going to do, and alternatives as well. We can support them to if something's not worked, to try something different. We can look at communication styles around using I statements, and it is around working with the individual member in a person-centered way. The idea of it being in a group on WebEx, hopefully we may carry on doing it on the WebEx platform, but after post-COVID, we would be wanting to be doing it in the community, in a community centre, and I think that's quite a good asset to have within a community as well. Because I think in every community centre, we haven't got lots of workers doing this. It's just me and a couple of others. But we would like to be in a community centre as well, which would be an asset in a community. So where do people get support? We know family members are isolated. We know they struggle to have support, but there is support out there in the community. And that brings me to the asset-based community development approach. It may be that they just don't require support from just ourselves, but if there's issues of safeguarding issues, it could be domestic violence, it could be coercive behaviour from the addict. It might mean that other services, so social prescribing, it might be IDFA, it could be a whole range of different other services that meet the needs of the individual. Debt management as well. If I suppose with gambling, we can look at things like that. Debt management support might be needed. We want to find out what the positive support is. We can look at strengths maps. We can look at asset maps, and find out where they can get the best support. And unhelpful support, we want to sort of decrease that support. How do family members work together as a family to support the person in addiction, or do they work together, or do they not work together? That's an interesting one. We can do network diagrams with family members, so we can use tools. We can use mapping tools. We can use CBT tools if we need. And we want to know how family members want to change. The final step is we do review. We do check-ins with family members. We make sure that everything's going all right before each session. We do outcome questionnaires again to find out how things have improved, and hopefully they have improved. And also further needs, what family members could have. So where can they go from the next step? We look at the person, the substance use, the health problem, the disability, and the interventions ended. So 5 sessions done on WebEx at present. Simple list. It's for family members in their own right. The family members get a handbook, which is help to support delivery, and that's really, really useful. We look quickly at this, the complexity of addiction. It is complex. Nothing is sure and nothing is guaranteed. We can use this for any addiction behavioural change model, the cycle of change. People decide, contemplate to do something, they make a decision, the active change occurs, they maintain it, and unfortunately, we wish everybody first time round could stop their addiction, but unfortunately, it's not always the case. It's a lapse, a relapse, and then it goes round. I think for smoking, they reckon 20 times. For most other addictions, 7 or 8. And we have to also be honest as well that people's health along that can seriously deteriorate up to the point of, and if we look at the United Kingdom, 2,000 opiate deaths, 2019, so over 4,000 drug poisoning deaths. So people do die along the way, and we do have to accept that as part of addiction. Just an interesting slide. There's the user. There's a massive ripple effect. It's a huge ripple effect. Costs money to the individual, to the family member, and to society. It's interesting. We've looked at family member stuff, but then we look at the effects on the community. So things like crime, public disorder, drink and drug driving. There's so much ripple effect that goes on, and I think that's why Turning Point as a service work extremely closely with the volunteer sector, with Action Together, to make sure that we can all work to support the addict. The asset-based community development model of change is what we strongly work towards. The addict's part of the community. The solutions may be within that community. All addicts have assets and strengths. As I said earlier, everyone and anyone knows an addict, someone's brother, sister, mother, father, son, and or daughter. It also makes economic sense to all be part of the solution, but also, like any health condition, stigma, marginalisation stops change happening. So there's some great stuff been going on, I think, during COVID. The community's had a really, really good, robust, positive approach to supporting addicts by making sure that they're fed, making sure that those health and welfare packs are being created, helping to support digital inclusion. So there's so much good stuff going on, and hopefully that will move forward post-pandemic. Communities, what can we do? Well, we do our 5-step carer. I suppose there's so much more communities do to that create the safer, stronger, thriving communities. There's a lot that communities can do. And I suppose we do work in collaboration with police, with the local authority as well, to support the addict. I've mentioned a couple of websites there. AdFam is the main website that has a lot of information around where to get extra help. Alcoholics Anonymous provides support for those using alcohol. We have Narcotics Anonymous. We have the support for families through Family Anonymous. We do self-management recovery training. And also you can refer on our own website, Turning Point, Rochdale and Oldham. We have a single point of contact number that if you have someone who wants drug or alcohol treatment support, but actually also wants help with family carer support, which I do. So if you phone me, they'll get in contact with me and can actively add support for the client. They can refer to me direct, which gives time for questions.